Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, I am so excited about my guest today. This is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to get him on here. He is a father of two, a husband. He says he's a college dropout, but he has 9 years pro wrestling vet, and he's a 15-time pro wrestling champion. So you guys are going to be in for a fun treat today, I think, and I'm excited to chat with him. I've already had the pleasure of chatting with him offline, so this is going to be a lot of fun just to kind of reconnect and let you guys listen in on what he's doing and where he's coming from. So before we do that, I do want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. And so today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt and his work, you're going to want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give a quick shout out to our friend Chris. I can't talk today. Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Productions. If you are in need of turnkey special event production, Clow is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, you want to go to upbeatmediapro.com. All right. Well, I'm excited to get my guest on here today. This is going to be so much fun. Dontae Smiley. This is so exciting. He is the owner of Built Different Fitness. And he's a top 3 bestseller in multiple categories for his book. I love this. Becoming Unfuckwittable. I totally like this book, Dontae. I like the phonetics of it. It's so awesome. And it's how going from a victim mindset to a 13th floor mindset can change your life and legacy forever. He's a public speaker with one of his biggest events, it looks like so far, has been with Ryan Stewman's Apex Live. Exciting news. And he says he's an avid basketball fan. Love it. Dontae, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you here.
I appreciate it, Jennifer. Appreciate you inviting me onto your platform. Thank you.
It's going to be so much fun. So I've had all kinds of people on my show. I've told you I've had like some basketball players, and I've had, I think, a football player, and I've had a professional motocross. I call him an Evel Knievel kind of guy, but I haven't had a wrestler yet. So I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to kind of break that barrier for the future professional wrestlers that you might get on your platform. How about that?
That's right. That's right. This is so much fun. So, all right. Well, I want to kind of, I guess, start this off first and foremost because you got this fitness thing. So let's talk about a little bit about what you got going on right now and what you're working on.
Yeah. So, I mean, fitness-wise, I'm just still in the current process of just growing my brand because I actually rebranded about 1.5 years ago. I used to be called Primetime Fitness because my wrestling moniker is Primetime Dontae Smiley. That's what my name is when they announce me at matches and stuff. And I kind of based it off of that, but it didn't really correlate well with how my business had grown since I had first created it back in 2018 after I established certain core values and started kind of having a vet process for my clients and didn't base things off the wrestler, but off the person, just Dontae, you know what I mean? And I felt like my brand name and company name needed to correlate with that. And so that's when I had talked with a couple of my mentors and came up with the Build Different Fitness name. That's what I ended up changing Primetime Fitness to, was Build Different Fitness. And it's been rocking a lot better ever since. Right now, like I was in the process of kind of trying to find my own building because right now I sublease from where I'm at and run my business out of somebody else's gym, essentially. And like I said, one day I'm going to have my own place. I just don't have time to do it right now because wrestling takes up so much time. And I know if I'm going to open up a gym to really get it growing, let alone a CrossFit gym, I'm going to need to be in there all the time. I won't have time to go, leave before a week or two to go wrestle out in London or leave for a whole weekend to go wrestle out in Arkansas or Florida or whatever it may be, or randomly take a booking to go be on TV for NWA or AEW or anything like that. So I just had to kind of like just wait, grow my business from where it's at right now. Know that day is going to come because there's going to come a day that wrestling is going to end, and just kind of keep that in mind and just keep fine tuning everything. So when it does happen, I'm ready to hit the ground running at that point.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good stance because, you're being realistic in the sense that you recognize, hey, at some point I'm not going to be able to do the wrestling thing anymore, but I've got this kind of over here that I'm working on and building and kind of keeping it, like you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. I like that. And I think that's great,
Right.
When you're in this physical space of doing these kinds of things. Your story is I just think it's so fun. And I know we got to talk offline a little bit about how you came into boxing. But it's not boxing, I'm sorry, wrestling. I had a boxer that was supposed to be coming on after you that we moved his around. So I've got both of you guys on my mind, the wrestler and the boxer, two different things, but both sports, So I want to maybe share with our audience a little bit how you came about into the wrestling, because I know we talked about this mentor and the importance of that, and how you had this great opportunity. I know they would love to hear this story, so maybe share a little bit of that with our audience.
Yeah, most definitely. So first off, I know pro wrestling is a niche, right? A lot of people definitely grew up possibly watching it when they were younger. A lot of the times people get older and they kind of find out a little bit of the ins and outs of the business. They kind of get away from it slightly. But most people that I know, I found out, have been a wrestling fan at some point in their life, be it 80s, 90s, 2000s, still to the day, whatever it may be. And always have been. When I was in college, didn't watch that much, but I grew up with hundreds of the little figures, my own ring in the bedroom, talking to myself, making my own matches with my toys as a youngster. And back in 2014, early 2014, late 2013, one of my best friends and myself, my friend Darius, who ended up becoming my tag team partner, his name was Todd Wilson in wrestling. But we had a video podcast out of Deep Ellum On Air, is what it was. We rented out this studio once a week on Sundays, and had this podcast, this vlog about wrestling, the independent scene, majors. We did reviews. We would go do interviews and all that kind of stuff. And finally, one night, we kind of were talking on the air, and at almost the same moment, we had this epiphany. Have you ever actually thought about trying to find a wrestling school to join, or think about trying to actually get into business? And neither one of us really had, because we weren't really around a whole lot of people that were in it at that time. So I got on Googled, wrestling schools in the area for DFW, and one promotion came up. We went out there, we did some videography for them, did some photography for them for free after I reached out. Went out to drink with him a little bit afterwards, and we met this chick named Ruthless Lala, who I still think to this day, anytime I get to talk to her. But Lala, when we sat with her, we could just feel the realness in what she was saying, because myself and Darius, we were both kind of like street kids, grew up in the inner city and stuff like that. So we could tell those that were sitting down talking to us that were just trying to sell us the product. And then we could tell people that were being all the way real with us, this is what you get here. This is what you get here. This is what you get from this person. This is what you get from that person. Right. And she told us about a guy named Anthony Black that ran a promotion called Big Texas Wrestling, BTW, out in Cleveland. He lived in Fort Worth at that time, and gave us his number. So I messaged Tony that night. I was like, hey, I got your number from Lala. We're interested in coming out and training. How much do you charge, for your trainees to come out and train with you? And he just replied back, hey, here's my address. Come out on Monday. See if you like it. And I was like, all right, that's cool, but how much do you charge? Because I need to prepare. You know what I mean? I don't want to come here, fall in love with it, and not being able to afford it at that time, because I was just getting ready to get married. I just started becoming a personal trainer at that time in 2014. And all that. So I had a lot of life stuff that was happening that a lot of money needed to go into. So that was of importance. But he kept saying, just come out, just come out. Went out Monday. How much do you charge? Just come out Tuesday, see if you still like it. Went out on Tuesday. How much do you charge? Come out on Wednesday, see if you like it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Kept going until finally one day, he just kind of sat with us, and he was like, hey, so obviously you probably realized I'm not going to charge you for your training. He was like, I don't like doing that. I love what I do. He was the second generation wrestler himself, because his dad also wrestled and whatnot. And so he was like, y'all will work hard. Just don't waste my time when you come here. Give it everything you got. Show that you really want it. And rain, hail, sleet, snow, ice, 100-degree weather, negative 10-degree weather. Me and Todd were driving 2 hours from where we lived all the way to the Timbuktu, Fort Worth, Texas, where he lived at, to train. 5 to 7 days a week. We stayed over his house at times to wake up in the morning and train all over again, And I was 26 years old when I started, 25 years old when I started. And so he blessed us up a lot. So, now anytime anything big happens in my career, even though I obviously don't train with him, because now I'm a coach actually at a school called Bumps and Bruises Pro Wrestling 469 here in Carrollton. And but anytime I'm getting a TV booking or getting to go on tours or getting ready to go out the country for a show, I always hit them with a message. They say, hey, man, I just want you to know that I still appreciate everything you did for me, and, he always tells me that I don't have to do that because it's not necessary because I've already paid my dues with him. But I'm one of them people that want folks that have helped me that have somewhat facilitated part of my careers and helped me along those lines to get to where I'm at today, to always know I never forget where I came from. You know what I mean? And regardless of how the relationship looks today, whether we talk all the time, don't talk all the time, like I will never forget those that have held me along those lines, even if it's a negative relationship. Me and Tony don't have one. We're best friends and love each other still. But even some of the relationships that have changed for the worse, I guess you should say, I still write about those people, wrote about them in my book about my career and gave them that nod. If I do a podcast, I still talk about them and say and admit, how they helped me around my career, because I never forget that, regardless of, once again, of how that relationship looks, because I'm always going to be forever appreciative of that, because they didn't have to, you know what I mean? It was a choice that they made at that time, and I'll forever respect that regardless.
Yeah, I know. I think this is so good, Dontae, that I love that, because well, a couple of things. One, what an incredible opportunity you had for somebody to believe in you and to take that chance, right? Like to jump out on that and say, hey, come out to my place, see if you like it. And then for you to not blow that, like exhaust that, like look at that as an opportunity and say, I'm going to show up, rain, sleet, snow, whatever is going on. I'm going to be there and give it 110% to that craft. So I think, you both were an investment for each other, because you had the person believing in you, and you didn't let them down. You showed up. And I think that's great. And I also love that you look at, this opportunity, where all these people have come into your life, good or bad. And I firmly believe that even in, in negative situations, there's something to be learned from that. And so every time you look at something like that, even if it wasn't a positive encounter, there's something to walk away from that, and you can still be hopefully grateful in that moment. So I loved your stance on that.
Yeah. And once again, I just don't want anybody to forget, because it's easy, especially in the entertainment business. A lot of people can get real deep to where they just forget about all that stuff just because they don't talk to all those people from their past anymore. The person that helped them sent an email for them to send in something, for them to get that first look, possibly for somebody that reached out to somebody else, for them to get in contact with you saying that you're one of the top wrestlers that they've never seen before, and they need to book you and putting their name out on the line. There's a lot of weight to that, to me, because once again, people don't have to, and I'm forever grateful for those that, have done that and are still doing that today. Like, my mentor, Sir Mo from Men on a Mission, he's a former WWE Tag Team Champion and stuff. It's his wrestling school that I had coached at and whatnot. And he's still one of the high investors in my career right now. He's the one that owns the organization, the OIWA that you talked about on the intro, that I'm the champion of right now, the longest reigning OIWA international champion. He owns that company. He brings a lot of big names in for me to work. You know what I mean? If there's anything that he feels I need to correct, or any advice that he feels that he can give me, he's always giving it to me. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of like, where we're at right now. He was the one that helped me get to AEW the first time and whatnot, which AEW's All Elite Wrestling. It's a promotion that comes on TBS right now, kind of WWE's rival, so to speak, if you want to call it that. So, there's a lot that just goes into it, and you need a tribe. It takes a tribe to be able to make it in any kind of entertainment business, because I do music as well. Excuse me. And even in the music business, we need help. You need people that can vouch for you. You need people that need to tell another promoter that they need to book you on a show as well. And so it's just that kind of stuff. Having the right people around you, meeting the right people at the right place at the right time, so the right things can happen. All the above is needed for somebody to be able to make it, really, period, but definitely in the entertainment business.
Yeah. Well, and I think, making yourself available, right? Like, looking for opportunity and putting yourself out there, right? Like, I agree with you on all of this. Your tribe is huge. You want to obviously surround yourself with the right people, especially if you're trying to build something. You don't want to be around people that are going to be tearing you down and not supporting you, and we get plenty of that in the world. You certainly don't need that in your circle. Right? Just walk out into the world or turn on the news. You get plenty of that every day. We want the right people in our spaces at all times. So
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I think it's awesome, and I really like that you're humble in your endeavor, because I think that you're right. I'm not in that industry, but I've got friends that are in in the entertainment industry, and I think so often, people can get so lost in their stuff that they forget where they came from, or they forget what it's like to be, their fans, or the people that are their support, that are helping them be
Right.
who they are, right? So I love your humility in this, and willingness to remember, where you came from. I want to talk about your book, because I don't know how I missed this. I just looked at this today, and I'm like, like I told you, I like this title. I think it's just fun. It's like, tell us a little bit about that. When did you write this, and kind of the inspiration behind this?
Yes, so I wrote it in 2021.
Okay.
The inspiration behind it was, number one, the thought that, and realizing that only 1% of the world ever becomes a published author, which I wanted to be in that 1%. When I found that out, I'm one of them people that, when the percentages are low for success in a certain arena, I want to try to challenge that, and see if I could get up in that. You know what I mean? Because that's part of history, and it's stuff that nobody can take away from you, man. When you become a published author, when you become a podcaster, right? That stuff is always out there from the moment it is released until on, unless you obviously delete it or take it down. If not,
Right.
it is always out there. So nobody can ever take that away from you. And the thing that got me was, so I'm in an Apex Mastermind group, which is the group, Ryan Stewman's group that he owns, and he has a guy named Drew B. Wilson that is one of his main manager guys that works right up under him. He's Ryan's right hand man. And I was just up at the office before going on a trip out to Florida for actual AEW, and I was up there just visiting Drewby one day, and we were talking. He was like, "Man, Dontae, I just love seeing you. Love that you just came through to say what's up before you headed out." And he was like, "Man, the one thing I need you to do, man, or the one thing I want to know is, when are you gonna write your book?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "When you heard me? Like, when are you gonna write your book?" And I was like, "Why?" I was never planning on writing a book. He was like, "That's a grave mistake if you don't, man." He was like, "A lot of people don't feel like they have a story till they put a book out and everybody reads it and realize how much of the story they do have and how they correlate with other people's life." He was like, "You've done a lot of your life. You've overcome a lot of your life. You've had a lot of successes already in your life, and obviously continuing to do so." He was like, "I think you need to write the book, man." He was like, "I've written mine. Ryan has written many, and a lot of people within Apex have written books at this point." It's kind of like the thing that we try to get a lot of people to do within our group, because we fully understand that everybody has a story that somebody out there needs to hear. Somebody has some bit of knowledge or something they can share that everybody can get something from. And when he said that, it just sat with me, like once again, I like a challenge. So when he kind of challenged me, so to speak, to be like, "Write the book, man. Let's see if you got it. Tell your story how it needs to be told. Tell it in your way." I went home and started getting it after that trip. When I got back from Florida, the first thing I did was kind of sit down, think of what I would have called, wrote the outline for it, wrote a detailed outline after that, and then I just got recording it, because it's my life story plus the lessons I learned from those that all kind of changed the trajectory on how my life has gone, how one thing worked out, how it could versus how it could have worked out, but didn't, and vice versa, and just the overall correlation and synchronicity of this is how life was supposed to go, and everything was kind of a rite of passage, so to speak, to that next thing. And that's honestly how I viewed a lot of stuff. I thought I was supposed to be in the music business for the longest time. I was going on tours. I was opening up for all the big name artists. I was performing at South by Southwest. Then wrestling fell in my lap, and then I hit the ground running. And so in turn, I ended up looking at music as just a rite of passage and teaching me a lot of early stuff that I needed to have to be able to start my wrestling career, which was my first love. Wrestling I loved since I was a kid. Music is something that I fell into a little bit older, when I was 18. But wrestling was always kind of that first love, even before basketball was, to be 100% honest. And it's just that kind of stuff. I suffered a foot dislocation when I was supposed to be getting ready to go to Germany for some training and for some matches for the first time out of country. 2 months before, a month and a half before, I dislocated my left foot. I suffered what's called a subtalar joint dislocation. Couldn't go on that trip, got real depressed, got back on drugs again during that time, got super suicidal during that time, found God during that time. And so I could have looked at that foot injury as something that was bad, but now knowing it was unfortunate, but was it a bad situation, so to speak? I would think not, due to the simple fact that I wouldn't have found God during that time. I wouldn't have found some of the alignments that I have. I wouldn't have known how to really grow through hard situations if it wasn't for that, because I learned how to grow through hard situations by stories and principles that the Bible tells us that we should implement, and how to utilize these tools from God to be able to get through life and those hardships and things like that. So like my man Tony Tavares said, he's a big old bodybuilder, runs one of the biggest roofing companies with Kurt Leininger, and he always says, he was like, when bad things happen, he was like, always look at them as a maybe. He was like, because this only time would tell if it was actually a bad thing. He was like, because there's a lot of good stuff sometimes that won't happen if that bad thing didn't happen. So would you really consider it a bad thing if something good ended up coming from it, be it a month later, 6 months later, a year later, 5 years later? You just really never know. So it's always kind of a maybe. And he's right in that, like he told me that here recently, but looking back at my story, a lot of the hardest things that I went through were maybes, because I learned so much from them so they wouldn't happen again, so then life is even that much more elevated as it goes on.
Yeah, that was so good. Okay, so here's the funny. Almost every time I do a podcast, there's like that one moment where I go, I got the chills. That was the moment right there when you talked about that story at the end about the hardship, because you are so right. It is hard in the moment when something is not going right, when you're in knee deep into something heavy, right? To find the win. But when you look back, and you go back and you say, well, had that not happened, it's not something you would like to go through again. You wouldn't wish it on anybody. But when you look back, you can say, would all these other things have happened in my life had I not gone through that adversity at that time? Right? It's powerful. Powerful. And I said that too, like one of my favorite mentors, I've said this several times on the show, John Maxwell, he always says, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And that's how I always approach everything. I'm like, there really are no bad decisions. It's really, you look and say, to what extent is it, because there really is no bad decisions. I mean, if you did something that didn't work out, you learn, don't do that again. You learn to do something different. But in most of those times, that's when our character is developed, and it sprouts new things in our character development and leads us to new places. So I think your story is great. I'm glad you got this book out, because I think that just what you said right there, there's so many things, like you could have crumbled. You could have just, which a lot of people do. They have a crisis happen and they fall to their knees and they don't get back up. And then there's people like you that have something that comes in the way and say, you know what? I like a challenge, and I'm not going to let this moment define me. I'm going to rise up and take what I learned and move forward. So good for you.
Yeah. And it's one of them things on, being comfortable in that vulnerability. The author, Brené Brown, that's what she said. She said, the greatest amount of courage is those that are willing to be vulnerable, essentially. And it's true, because, like talking about having drug addictions or past porn addiction, or going through this hardship or this mishap of trouble, and then talking about it so freely, when you're on the other side of it, for other people to learn takes a lot of courage, because there's still people out there that would judge you off of that. So when you're fearless in that and not worried about the judgment, because you 100% understand it's not who you are today, but that's who you were back then, but you wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for back then. All bets are off. All chains are off at that point. No, you really become unstoppable and really have the opportunity to be a world changer, because no telling how many people, every time you tell that story to a part of the story, the whole story, and they passed it on. And they're like, man, I talked to this one dude named Dontae, and he told me this story when their friend gets depressed. And so on, and down the ladder it goes. Then they picking up the book, and then they're passing the book on, or then they looking at podcasts, and we're sharing the podcast clippings of you doing a public speaking engagement or whatever it may be. And that's how I look at it. Like I know what my greater purpose is, and all the fun stuff that I get to do, the wrestling, the music, and all that, is just giving me more reach out and into the universe of people. So when they listen to podcasts like this or anything else I'm on, or my videos of motivational speaking, that's when everything that I do really comes into play on the reason why I'm doing it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
wrestling. I love entertaining fans, and that's a huge part of it. But once again, one day that's going to end, and I know who I am on the other side of that already, and what I'm trying to achieve within the process now to have even greater opportunity on the other side of that. And I need that reach. So I'm trying to be as successful as possible as I can right now so I can get as much reach as possible. So when wrestling is done and I'm focusing on fitness and I got my own gym and podcasts are growing and I'm doing more speaking engagements and stuff like that, there's going so many lives are going to be changed. There are a lot of already been changed, still being changed, but even more are going to get changed on the other end of it too.
I love it, Dontae. I love it. And I can tell you're passionate about it, which is so important in what we do, right? Like we have this message we want to get out there and we have to be passionate about it. So I love your fire and your zest and all the stuff that's going with it. It's great. I'm sure I actually looked at some of your videos like right after we chatted the first time because I'm like, I got to learn about this Dontae Smiley. Who is this guy? So I did look at some of your videos and I can tell you're having fun. And like I said, I think that's what it's all about. Whatever you're going to do, I'm like, get passionate about it, have fun with it, enjoy life. And if you can find a way to take that and help other people, you got something great going on, right? Like, I love it. I love it. I want to ask you kind of a fun question because you've said a lot in this last little bit. And I haven't asked this question in a while, but I think you're going to have some great insight on this. So what would you say to a younger, you're still young, you're not old at all, but I'm just going to say a younger Dontae, 10 years ago, starting out in this wrestling arena when you were brand new, what would you say to that Dontae?
Oh, so that's a good one. I've kind of changed my answer up over times that I've actually been asked this. But I think more than anything, because pre 10 years ago, pre wrestling, I was having even some of the most like hardest financial times of my life at that time. You know what I mean? I've seen an eviction notice on the door of an apartment at that time. You know what I mean? Just couldn't get right. That was right before any of the injuries and stuff. I was still really trying to find my way early after marriage at that time as well. Really right before even we were still just engaged and dating and whatnot at that time because we got married in 2014. So more than anything, I think what I would say is, hey man, through the hardships that you're about to have to go through, because the 20s is some of the hardest times that you're going to have in your life because you're going to grow a lot after that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just know that if you put God first, you're going to be all right. More than it, and that's it. If you follow God's principle and put him in front of you in everything you do and trust in those principles and words and the lessons that come scripturally, you're going to be okay. You're going to be more than okay, actually, because you're going to use that testimony to change more lives. And you using that testimony to change more lives, more people are going to want to be part of that for your business sakes as well. And so the more people that are part of it for your business sakes means the more money that you're going to make. And the more money you make, now you can help other people in that turn and have a different life for your children than you had, a different life for your wife than your parents ever had with each other when they split when you were 3 years old. So put God first, you're going to be all right. The sooner the better. But if you do it later, do it and hit the ground running.
Dontae, I love that. All of it. It was so awesome. So good. So good. I knew you would be able to take that question away. I seriously have not asked that question in a while, but you have such a profound story and everything that you're doing. I knew you would be able to get that. But you know, it is funny. I think as you do age and you keep evolving, that changes, right? Like, because as you grow, your priorities change. But I'm totally with you. I would not, because I just hit 50 in the end of the year. And, it's funny because I wouldn't want to go back to my 20s either, because I feel like, each passing, year that you go in, and it doesn't necessarily happen, in the small terms, but as you go and you go from the 30s to the 40s, 50s, you get to a place where you look back and you're like, man, you gain so much knowledge and wisdom as you go through the years, right? Like you just have a different insight. The priorities change. You look at things differently. And I'm like, man, 20s did suck. Like I remember being broke, and I talk about living in my apartment and buying a loaf of bread and peanut butter and eating that for a week because I didn't have any money and I was trying to pay my light bill, and all the things we go through, right? Like, why would we want to do that again? No, right? I'm with you on that. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So this has been great. I want to ask you a few fun questions. Just, I sometimes I do these rapid fire because I think they're just fun. And I think this will be fun with you just because of where you are. So I want to ask you a couple fun questions. I would love to know, because you are all into fitness and I've seen your videos, your training and you're doing your stuff. I'd love to know, like, what is your favorite guilty pleasure food? Like, what's the one thing
Ooh,
it's like, oh, yeah.
just can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
I would have. I would. Ooh, yeah. I mean, I would have. I don't really consider pizza a guilty pleasure because to me, I look at pizza. I'm like, oh, it's carbs, fat, and protein. You know what I mean? Where some people review it as that. Like I don't consider that, but like I am a sucker for a milkshake. I'll probably have more milkshakes than I absolutely need to be 100% honest. But I do not feel guilty for it because I work very hard. I'm very disciplined in all aspects. So when I do have it, I just show myself some grace and think nothing else of it. You know what I mean? But I can't get enough of a milkshake. So my guilty pleasure food is definitely that. And I will
That
be
milkshake.
having, yeah, milkshake. Yeah, I usually will have one or two a week. Like I ain't even gonna lie about it. Like,
Hey, it's all right. You know what? I love that you're saying you're not feeling guilty because I kind of have that same philosophy. I don't eat a lot of junk, but I work out and don't work out near as hard as you do because you're training all the time. But I love
right,
that philosophy. And that's kind of how I work with my people. I tell them, like, you should be able to have things and not feel guilty about it. If you're doing things right all the other days, if you're taking care of your body all the other days and you exercise to the best of your ability with your physical, whatever physical limitations you have or whatever, and you eat okay for the most part, and you decide you want some Oreos that day, go eat the stupid Oreos. Just don't eat them
come
every
on,
day, the whole package every
right,
single day, right? Like, no, then you're going to feel guilty and you're going to
right,
probably feel sick. Like I would feel sick, right? But
right.
I like milkshakes too. Like I like ice cream and I like milkshakes too. And if I
Yeah,
want
I'm,
one,
I'm,
I'm
a,
going to go get it.
I'm a sucker for it. I ain't.
You go, you go. All right. Because I know you're into personal development and stuff. I would love to know, besides your amazing book, I would like to know, like, maybe do you have another favorite book that you recommend that you've read that's been like, I don't know, something that inspired you?
Yeah. So the one I always recommend this book first because it was the first book I read when I started my growth journey of a process back right after I got saved, and it is a book from my pastor Keith Craft. He's a pastor at Elevate Life Church out in Frisco, head pastor. And his book is titled "Your Divine Fingerprint," and the
Okay.
reason I say that is the first book that I think I would always suggest is especially on a personal development process and growth journey is because it's exactly about that. Who are you? Who are you when the coat of being a professional wrestler off? Who are you when you don't have the podcast? Who are you when you aren't a recording artist? Who are you when you aren't able to deadlift as much as you could deadlift right now? And it's kind of how to develop your unique 1% that you are able to deploy into the world. And he gives a lot of good advice in that. He obviously suggests a lot of scriptural references within it on what God says, which I think is 100% important. And I'll never back down on that in any conversation, regardless of who I'm talking to. And I think that's the key. And then outside of that, I would definitely suggest Ryan Stewman's G Code book. His book is called The G Code. And then also Eric Thomas, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher. He's one of my favorite motivational speakers. His newest book, UOU, is absolutely amazing. I'm reading it right now, and I think it's one that would be a good read for a lot of people. So, Your Divine Fingerprint by Keith Craft, number one. Number two, Ryan Stewman, The G Code. And then number three, Eric Thomas, UOU.
Very cool. Well, there you go, guys. You got a book list right there. This is when I do ask this question, I love it because it's like I get books that I haven't heard of before. And so it helps me
Yeah,
too with my list of like, hey, what do I want to be reading next? So I figure people that are reading books like I'm reading kind of know what some good books are out there. So,
right.
okay. Thank you for sharing that. I have one more fun question I want to ask you because you get
Do
to
it.
do this cool stuff with wrestling and you get to travel around. Like, what's the coolest place you've gotten to travel?
Ooh, Canada probably would be number one.
Cool.
So fun fact, I had never flown before until I started wrestling. And, I didn't start till I was 26 years old. So because of wrestling, I was able to start flying. So a lot of places are very fun places because a lot of places that I'm flying are relatively new unless I'm like
Yeah.
booked out there monthly. But Canada was really fun because it was my first time out of the country when I went. Walking into some place and being a complete foreigner and having to have somebody translate with me because I'm walking in. It was in Montreal, so they speak a lot of French there. So
Right.
I'm walking in, they're speaking in French, and asking me essentially like what I want to eat, for instance. And I'm like, yeah, so can I get the, and they're like, oh, you're American. We speak English too. And I'm like, all right, perfect. You know what I mean? So having that such a cultural difference for the first time like that was really fun. I get to go to the UK later this year in September. So I expect the same thing to happen over there and just, going to take being that American in when I'm over there because I think that's super fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So what's the next big thing coming up for you before we close this out? What do you got going on next?
So next big thing, I'm working on book number 2, 13 Principles from the 13th Floor right now, in the process of working on that. And just steadily full speed ahead on the wrestling career. I don't know exactly what's coming, but I know something big is coming. Got a lot of stuff in play, but it's only like time that's separating, so now it's not really the time to talk about it, but a lot of big stuff is coming up in wrestling for the remainder of this year and going into the next year. And stand the course. I think life is beautiful because everything that we do, we get to do. And so to me, a lot of stuff is big because once again, we're not promised today. So I take everything as is. I'm very in the moment with a lot of things that I do in life. And I think that's super important because we need to fully understand that it could be as morbid as it sounds. And I hate saying that sometimes, but it genuinely could be the last time that we get to do that one special thing, the one time that we get to say I love you, that one time we get to say thank you, that one time that it might be the last wrestling match or whatever it may be. And so I don't take anything for granted. So every moment that I get to have with any individual, like yourself, like my family, like somebody that I'm wrestling, like when I get to fly or whatever it may be, I'm always grateful for those, you know what I'm saying, and appreciative and accept all of it, so to speak. So that's kind of where it's at.
I love it, Dontae. And well, like I said, and I love that you're passionate about what you get to do and the humility and all of that. The authenticity, I think, is what I really like about you. So very cool. I'm excited to see what you do. I'm going to keep in touch with you and keep following your work and see all the greatness that you're putting out into the world. If our audience wants to get in touch with you and learn a little bit more about you, because I'm sure they're going to listen to this and they're going to be like, okay, who's this Dontae Smiley? I got to find him. Yeah. Where do we want to send them to find you?
So they could go to connectwithdontae.com, and then they could also follow me on Instagram at dsmileybuiltdifferent, dsmileybuiltdifferent. And I'm on Twitter as well. Don't use it as much because I feel like Twitter is the land of the lost majority.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of negativity and a little bit too much of people saying whatever the heck they want to on Twitter, which is fine because I'm all for free speech. I'm 100% game for that. And people have their opinions. But even with that, to separate myself from getting frustrated about certain things, I just go there, make my quick post, and then get out. But Twitter is dsmileybd. So Instagram, dsmileybuiltdifferent. Twitter, dsmileybd. My website is connectwithdontae.com.
Okay. Well, and I will say something to you. First, I agree with you on Twitter because I have to go in there too, and I'm the same way. Like it's you get out of there, just stay out, do what you got to do, and get out. I'm with you on that. But I also want to say to our audience, they can look you up if they Google search you. They will be able to find you because I found you. We will find you. That's not hard to get you. But thank you for telling us all the tags. We will make sure when this goes out that we get the the website in there and get this to make it easy for them. But audience, you can find him. He's not hard to find. So I just wanted to make you say that so we could get him.
Right. Yeah. You Google me, like that. Yep. It has more information comes up on me on Google than sometimes I would even like, but it's part of it when you're in the entertainment business like that. So it is what it is. I'm ready for it 100%. It's all good.
I agree with you. Well, I want to tell you thank you so much for, like I said, your authenticity and for coming on here, sharing your story with us and inspiring us, and keep doing your thing. Have fun, enjoy it while you can, and keep spreading your light, to those that need to hear it, because I feel like, that there are people that need to hear the message, and the right people find the message when they need it. To our audience, of course, we want to say, if you enjoy our show, go check us out on Apple, hit that, like button, give us a review, go to YouTube, hit the subscribe so we can keep sharing these incredible stories. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care. Be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.